Broadcasting live on the UnitedWest.org AM radio network, simulcasting on DirecTV, iHeartRadio, Roku, and the World Wide Web. This is Enemies of the State with Tom Trento.
Man, them A-10s are pretty cool flying in that Warthog. Hi, everybody. Wednesday, the 17th of June, a couple of minutes after, actually about 5 minutes after 4 o'clock. WSBR Radio, that's the radio station you're listening to right now. If you're anywhere from North Miami to North Palm Beach, or if it's midnight on the East Coast, you're listening to Red State Talk Radio. We're rebroadcast every evening, midnight, Eastern Daylight Time. It is daylight time. We're almost at the summer solstice. I think this Sunday is the first day of summer, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Papa Day, too, for all you papas out there, but we'll deal with that later on. Everybody listening or watching right now, raise your right hand, please. Oh, driving your car, never take your hand off the steering wheel. Lesson number one.
Simon Says kind of trick thing.
Never take your hand. 10 and 3. Not 9 and 2,
Give me a break.
10 and 3. Keep your hand on the wheel in the event of a blowout, in the event of a 95-year-old person driving on I-95, in the event of an Asian tourist. Can we say that Asian tourists are bad drivers? Or our Haitian brothers and sisters who drive a little differently than most people do.
You're such a racist. Tom.
And I've driven on the streets of Haiti. It ain't fun, let me tell you. They have a different way of doing things over there. I've actually coined a little song that I won't sing on the air about my brothers and sisters, Haitian drivers. But very important to keep your hands 10 and 3. And maybe somewhere in the future, I'll give you some Trento tips on driving. In a former life, I've driven virtually everything there is, from little tiny stuff to very large tractor trailers and racing cars and Ferraris and Porsches and all of that, and learned a thing or two about trying to stay alive on I-95 or any highway you are driving on, particularly in the wet summer weather that's coming up. Welcome to our show. Enemies of the State is the name of the show. Our objective is to expose enemies so that Americans, Israelis, Europeans, the West, Westerners, are safe. And we divide the world into two segments, the West and everything else. And we've learned that to the greatest extent, when a country is democratic, when it has free elections, when it has a separate judiciary, when it has a separate legislature, when elections are fair and protected, when countries align themselves and organize themselves in that democratic process, those countries do not war with one another. It's when you have a totalitarian or an egomaniacal dictatorial leader, or you have the system of Islam, which is de facto dictatorial and totalitarian, this top-down leadership, that abuses occur, political abuses on a global scale, thus wars. And when you have this internecine tribal issues like Islam has with Shia and Sunni, there's constant warfare. Warfare is a calling card of Islam. Warfare for Islam is the methodology for establishing the body politic, the religion, all of its essential elements. Thus, we have this clash of civilizations, the West against Islamic Jihad. Much of our work deals with that, but when there's an overlap of American administrations like this one with our dear friend Mr. Obama here, who energizes and enables the Islamic world to do its dastardly deeds, either in a overt manner or a negligent manner, then we have to critique our administration, which we do. And on yesterday's show, we showed you our dear friend John Stemberger, an attorney from Orlando, who laid out an analysis, pro-con analysis, and a money behind the men and women analysis of the 12 candidates. But since then, late yesterday, We had a new addition to the Republican Party, gentlemen.
Yes,
Yes.
the Donald.
What do you think?
The Donald. Hey, you know, welcome to the race. Grab a bag of popcorn and watch the fireworks fly, you know?
I'll tell you what, Damon and I were at the Broward County Republican Women. Hey, here's the Donald. We shall overcome. We shall show that again. On our television screen for the listening audience, we have somebody already put up, we shall overcome the Donald. That is his real hair. I touched it. I should know.
Yeah,
I've seen it
yank
wet
on it,
and
yeah.
sweaty. When he came off the golf course at Mar-a-Lago and took off his hat and showed all of us, he said, here, look, touch it. It's his real hair.
What was up with that little white thing in the corner of his mouth for 40 minutes?
It's a little speaker spit spot. Speaker
No, it
spit
wasn't. It
spot.
was actually, I looked at that. It was the actually the lighting was off.
No,
It's a speaker spit spot. What happens when you publicly speak? Sometime your mouth, you get cotton mouth. I don't care how good a speaker, how experienced a speaker, certain circumstances when you're speaking, you get cotton mouth. And people have water close by, as Marco Rubio did, when you remember when he did the follow-up to the DNC's announcement, I think 2012, he reached for the bottle of water, was falling off his seat. And by the way, Trump says Rubio's overrated and Jeb Bush is a stiff. This is going to be a fun election. That's the kind of stuff we like here at the United West. I got to tell you, I've read some of the comments on our show yesterday, and one person, Crystal M., said that all these Republican candidates, and I'm a Republican, those of us in here are more or less on the Republican side of the ledger.
Yeah.
And she said they all look like a bunch of SpongeBobs. And there's nothing distinguishing our 12 guys really from one another. And if you dress them up in each other's clothes and listen to them speak, really the message is very close together. Trump comes in, blows the lid off of that. I know what I'm doing. I got enough money. Nobody's bothering me. I'm successful. I'll mess with Mexico. I'll mess with Iraq. You know, hey, we are looking for this kind of bravado that has a big stick behind it. And he'll temper that message. He'll temper it. Now, I don't know that much about him. And, I don't know whether or not he'd make a good candidate. But I do know this. One litmus test for 508 days from today. 508 days from today is November 8th, 2016. I do know that any of the guys up there, the Republicans, and now Donald Trump, we would pick, we being the United West and our conservative friends, over Hillary Clinton, who seems to be going down and down and down each and every day
Even
with
Christie?
new Benghazi issues.
Even Christie?
So, and would we have picked Trump or any of these guys over Obama? Of course we would, because there's a different political philosophy that limits the extent of damage you can do to a country.
Yeah, especially when one guy, Trump, actually likes this country and the other guy would like to see it destroyed.
When you add the
Little bit of a
proper
difference.
political philosophy with a desire to advance a country, the mistakes you make will be normal mistakes that may not be as deadly and dangerous as the mistakes that this president has made. And now we got crime scene tape all over the United States of America. All right, Donald Trump. Should we try to get him on the show?
Oh, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, let's just cruise over to Mar-a-Lago, get an interview with him there, Tom.
We can try to get him on the show. You know what we can do? I know we can find him somewhere in Palm Beach and run up and talk to him. And he's pretty open guy to talk. I mean, he's he doesn't blow you off or anything like that. He's come from a hard scrabble. I think he lived on the other side of the tracks, and he was poor and broke and all of that.
That's the wrong candidate.
Oh, wrong guy out there. He had some money. I read his story. He had some money.
What, a couple $100 million?
No. I think he had $3 million, I think the figure was, when his father handed over work to him. And then he built some stuff. He lost the money, built it, bankrupt, up and down. And now he's worth $10 billion or whatever, which is a factor. It's not a determining factor as to who the president of the United States should be, but it's always good to see somebody who's had some experience. And he doesn't build, Holiday Inns in Idaho. He builds unbelievably complex facilities worldwide. So he does have to negotiate and deal and all of that. And that could be his downfall when it's exposed, if he's had to bribe people and do all of that, which sometimes you have to do in other countries to do business. That don't know if he did, but that may come back to hurt him. You never know. But in any event, that's the latest news coming out of Florida. I want you to watch yesterday's show, the analysis of the 12 individuals running for office. We will bring you that information. But today we're going to go to our favorite country in the Middle East, the country of Israel. We have two special guests on our show, a new one to our show, Anjam, young lady who is part of the Druze, D-R-U-Z-E, or you can alternately spell it D-R-U-S-E, Druze community. Very unique group of Israelis, of people living in Israel, but they also spill over into some other countries, and there's some problems in Syria with the Druze community. And we're going to have her on to help us understand that a little bit. And then a little later in the show, back from a well-needed vacation, because Agozi works so hard. He just works so hard. Ari Agozi will be giving us an overview of what's happening in Europe from an Israeli perspective, and then what's going on in Israel. So an update on the military hotspots and sociological issues going on in Israel. That's our show for today. Anything else we got going on, guys? Good.
Well, we had Melissa Harris Perry over the weekend talking about Rachel Dolezal possibly really being black despite having two white biological parents. And
I'll tell you what, this piece of video is so phenomenally stupid that we're going to hold it off. If we have time at the end, we'll play it at the end. It's about 2 or 3 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, about 2 minutes.
And we'll play it at the end and open it up for comments.
What, today or another
Today. We play it. We got to play this several times this week. That's how intellectually foolish this is. The Bible says the fool says in his heart, there is no God. Well, you can take that a step further. The Bible also says the fool who goes to an Ivy League school and talks like this is a complete fool. And you'll hear new words introduced to the English language. I
still haven't figured it out.
Cisgendered, cis-identified, CIS. All right, in any event, let's get to the better stuff. Do we have Angram with us?
No, we don't have anyone on yet.
No. Oh, we don't?
No.
Then we could go to Melissa Harris Perry, Melissa. We can go to her. Why do these black activist women, Hillary Rodham Clinton, why do they have all these bunch of names? I'm going to start calling myself Thomas Anthony Trento. I want you guys to call me Thomas Anthony Trento from now on.
Okay.
This is the Thomas Anthony Trento show. Were you surprised my middle name is Anthony?
Not in the least.
I thought it was Alphonse.
Tony.
I thought it was Alphonse. Yeah.
It was going to be Nicholas, believe it or not, after my uncle Nick. Would have been good initials, huh?
TNT?
Yeah. Instead of Tat, or
I like
TNT.
I like TNT better.
TNT would have been better.
Yeah.
Hey, Ma, what you do?
What you do? Yeah.
You picked the wrong person to be my godfather. So, no, my Uncle Tony was a good guy. All right, here we go.
Now we're going to go to Agozi. We're going to Agozi.
Oh, we got Agozi here.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going straight to Agozi.
All right, let's go straight to Ari Agozi, a little bit outside of Tel Aviv on this beautiful Wednesday, June 17th.
Long time no see this guy.
There he is, Agozi.
Yeah,
welcome
hi.
back.
I go. Thank you very much. How are you?
We are doing great here at 20 minutes after on WSBR Radio, 740 on the dial. Red State Talk Radio. We got a new network that picked us up, and we're on internet radio, played midnight East Coast time, and obviously on all the internet stuff. We understand, Ari, that you were on vacation somewhere in Europe.
I was in vacation somewhere in Eastern Europe, and it was great. you have to go out of a country like Israel to be able to better compare things to other countries. It's a lesson. We Israelis are complaining about everything, but when you see how things are being done in other countries, you see that we live in a very good country in spite of all the criticism that we have on the country that we live in. So it was good. It was a holiday, but it was also a fact-finding mission, if you can call it like this. And I came back, and things are happening in Israel. You probably know that this morning there was an alarm in the Golan Heights. The fighting there continues, and there were some mortar shells near the border, and the Israeli sensors are very sensitive, so there was an alarm in the area, but no shell hit Israeli territory. But the situation in the Golan Heights is very tense, very tense.
Hang on one second. All right, hang on one second. Let's get a map of the Golan, particularly on the Syrian border, and have Ari identify the exact area where these alarms went off. Now, by review for our listeners and viewers at 22 minutes after this past March, just a couple of months ago, United West led a team of 25 activists, Zionist activists, Jews, Christians, other faiths. And Ari was part of that. He helped set it up. He was with us on some of the days. And we went up to the Golan. And when I was there with you back in November, we went up to the Golan. So let's get a map up. Show us this area on the map and what's going on. Particularly, we hear not only the rockets, but the Druze community in Syria is now having a difficult time, it looks like.
The Druze community in Syria is in big danger. And as you know, we have a big Druze community in Israel, and they are very loyal to Israel. Many of them serve in the Israeli army, some of them in very high ranks. And we have Druze on the Golan Heights, on the Israeli side of the Golan Heights. So it's a very complicated problem. If the Druze in the Golan Heights are in danger, the expectations from Israel is to do something. And it's a huge problem because there are a few hundred thousand of them. And the discussions now in the government, in the cabinet, is what to do if worse come to worse and the fighting, the rebels, who they are, the ISIS in Syria, will threaten their lives. So it's a huge problem with of course with pressures from the Jews in Israel for the members of Knesset and other people in high places to do something. Of course, for Israel to get involved in this stage is a very bad thing, because until now Israel has not got involved in the fighting in Syria. But if the Druze community in Syria is in danger, in my opinion, Israel will have to do something, and it's a problem that is being dealt with as we speak now.
All right, we're going to show you. This is very serious, ladies and gentlemen, and we have been maintaining all along here at the United West on our show, Enemies of the State. Your host, Tom Trento, here. That our focus on our election, 509 days from today, November 8th, 2016, with a whole host of Republicans running now Donald Trump, has to understand exactly the issues we're talking about now, because overnight conflagrations can flare up in Israel on one of the hot spots on the border that could result in a regional war, at which point the United States is going to have to figure out what its role is in assisting and collaborating with Israel. And the leadership of this country right now, as Michael Oren in his new book, Ally, has shown, President Obama is not an ally of Israel. So we're looking at this new crop of people coming up, but it's 509 days away. So right now we're going to dive into the serious situation on the northeastern border of Israel in the Golan Heights. Let's put that map up. Ari, tell us what we're looking at with this map and where basically the situation with the
The situation now is focused on the point. It says Quneitra. It's a crossing point between. It was a crossing point between Syria and Israel, and the rebels now and ISIS are concentrated in the area with heavy fighting, and the shells that flew in the air this morning activated the Israeli very sensitive sensors in the area. So the fighting is very close to the border. It's very hard to see, even from the air, who is fighting against who, because everything is tangled together. You know, it's rebels against President Assad and ISIS and Al-Qaeda branches. Everything is combined there. Until this moment, Israel very cleverly did not interfere in the fighting. Israel opened a military hospital on the border and has so far treated something like 400 Syrian wounded in this hospital that otherwise would have died, because there's no medical help, medical services in Syria. This country is completely in ruins. So they are being brought into Israel, and on the border there is a hospital where they are treated. The fighting in Syria is in a stage where I think Assad will retreat to the Latakia area, where, in my opinion, in the opinion of some experts, he will build a stronghold. And from all Syria, this is the only part that he will control. Other parts of Syria will be in the hands of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, you name it.
Oh, what a mess. Now, let's go back to the map for a minute. The Quneitra crossing that you see on this map right in front of us here, we're pulling it up right now, Tom Trento, 27 minutes after 4 o'clock, East Coast time. The Quneitra crossing. We have Syria on the map on the right-hand side, the light area. Then we have the Golan, which is yellow. And then we have this green strip. Now, Ari, the yellow area is now under Israeli control. Is that true there? What are we looking at?
Yeah, the Golan Heights is under Israeli control. In between, there's the UN forces, which is, you know my opinion, this is a bad joke. They don't do anything. And this border has been very quiet along the years. But since even since the uprising in Syria began, but when ISIS got to the area, things have changed dramatically. And now ISIS, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, all of them wants to control this area on the border. And as of now, Israel has not got involved in that area. But I see a point where if rockets fall into Israeli territory, or if the Druze community on the other side of the border is in danger, Israel will have to take some steps to solve some very, very heavy problems.
All right, now to put a fine point on this for our listeners and viewers, I'm speaking with Ari Gozi, Israel's Homeland Security Home. That's a publication he heads up that deals with national security in Israel. And he's a frequent contributor to our show and a good friend who helps us put our missions together when we go over there. But we're looking at a very serious development right now with the Druze community that's in Syria. You said a couple of 100,000. That's a lot.
Yes.
Now possibly being threatened by one of these anti-Druze groups, whether it's the rebels, and that's the name for those fighting against Assad, or whether it's is the Islamic State fighting against the rebels and Assad, or whether it's al-Nusra. I mean, it is a mess.
And for Assad sometimes.
What's that?
And for Assad.
And for, yeah, you never know what day, who's fighting for whom. But certainly, if these people that have a relationship with Israel, the Druze community, over this boundary, if they need protection, you can't transport 200,000 people who live there for 1,000 years over into Israel. What do you have to do? Does Israel have to go in and occupy that area to protect them, or what are some of the potential scenarios?
That's out of the question going into Syria to protect them. That's why I define it as a very, very complicated, and that's an understatement, because we have Jews in Israel, as I said, serving in the IDF in very high ranks. They're very loyal to Israel. They are good people. I meet many of them during the week, and they are fantastic people, very honest, very loyal to Israel, and they now put pressure through the Knesset, to our parliament, through other points of power, for Israel to get ready for the moment where their brothers in Syria will be in danger. And I'm sure that right now the cabinet, the Ministry of Defense, is preparing some measures. I don't see what they can do. I don't see 400,000 people brought into Israel in camps in the Golan Heights. I don't see Israel going into Syria. So I think that if worse come to worse, the governments of some European countries and maybe the US will have to get involved and to say, hey, this is a humanitarian problem. We are getting involved. But if I see, if I compare, if I judge by the handling of the nuclear talks with Iran, this is a very bad example, because these talks have been resumed yesterday, and they are continuing. It's such a waste of time. Secretary Kerry had a press conference yesterday explaining what he expects of Iran, and this is, as we say, this is grinding water. It's the same words again and again and again and again. But so that's why I'm not holding my breath for a combined effort to solve the problem in Syria. But it's a very, very heavy problem.
Yeah, and as we start peeling some of the layers away in the Syrian problem with the Druze, you could almost see tactically the Islamic State saying, hey, if we go after the Druze, we're going to bring Israel in, which they want to do, because then they'll be able to recruit jihadis all over the world, because now it's an Israel battle, or even the United States getting involved. It could be a good tactical move on the Islamic State to go after the Druze. Are they in a position to defend themselves?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. They don't have any armed force, any armed militia. They're very peaceful people. They live peacefully in Syria for many, many years, and all of a sudden ISIS, with all those atrocities, are threatening their lives. This is why I think it's an international problem. It's not an Israeli problem. But when you see what happened in some parts of Africa, where the international community, so-called, did not do anything, and hundreds of thousands of people got killed, I'm not holding my breath again for an international operation, and I don't see Israel taking that problem on its shoulders, because it can suck Israel into a very, very bad point. Israel does not want to be involved in the war in Syria.
What about the Kurds, the Kurdish community? What is their relationship to the Druze?
Again, the question, sorry?
The Kurds, the Kurdish communities in Iraq, in Syria, the Kurds. What is their relationship? Have they
as you know, for many years,
to the Druze, their relationship to the Druze?
Yeah, I think they're in good relation. You know, for many years, the Kurds had very strong relation with Israel. And there are stories, according to foreign sources, that Israel helped the Kurds for many years with arms, with training. There are many publications about that. So the relations between the Druze and the Kurds, very good. But those two communities are in danger. And the world, I think that's why it's a problem that has to be dealt by the world and not by Israel.
Okay. Hey, you guys have questions?
Yeah,
for
I got
Barbara?
a question. I'll bring up this graphic here, and this is to give the idea how strategically important that this whole area is the Golan Heights is actually overlooking it's a high ground. It's a military high ground, and this is on the other side. If we go back to our graphics picture here, we can see that it's that the Golan Heights is Golan Heights area right now, Ari, a disputed territory, or is it part of Israel, or what is the status of that, and where?
It's part of Israel now. It's part of Israel.
Okay.
The many Israeli settlements, small and big in the area. Tom, you saw some of them.
Yep.
And there were there was talk in the past to give the Golan Heights back to Syria, which now, after the war in Syria, looks like a horror movie, an idea from a horror movie. To just imagine that the rebels would now sit on the water of the Sea of Galilee. It's amazing. It's just frightening just to think about this option, and it's overlooking the whole of Galilee. It's a very strategic point, of course, and I don't see in any political situation that Israel will give back even an inch of the Golan Heights back to anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Good point. All right. Well, you got a question?
I just had a question. I mean, the Druze serve such a major, important role for the IDF up in northern Israel. How do they feel about being handcuffed by the Israeli government to not go in and help their brothers in Syria? Wouldn't they be chomping at the bit to go save the other?
They're relatives. They're relatives.
I mean, this has got to be. Does
the ones in uniform obey the orders. It's not in Israel. You don't have private militias. It's an army. The IDF is an army. Of course, they put pressure through the public figures on the Knesset, on the cabinet, to help. But as I said before, Israel will not go into Syria. I don't see Israel bringing 400,000 Druze from Syria into Israel. It will become a time bomb on the Golan Heights. So that's why I think that this is a problem that has to be dealt with by the world, and the world is doing nothing.
I guess what I was getting at is you're risking the loyalty of the Israeli Druze by not saving the Syrian Druze.
It's a possibility. I mean, you know, if I were a Druze soldier fighting and loyal to Israel, and I'm watching my family getting slaughtered, and Israel won't let me go help, yeah, I mean, that's not going to
You're
play
going to have
well.
animosity in the ranks, I would think. I'm not a Druze, I can't tell you, but to me, I would not be happy as an Israeli Druze soldier not being allowed to cross the border and go help out my brothers.
They are not allowed. They obey orders. The Israeli army is not a militia. I say again, it's not that everyone takes his M16 or Galil and goes into Syria to fight. It's not like ISIS. It's an army. You have a command chain. It's the government gives the orders.
I understand that. I understand that.
Private militia that you take a Humvee with a machine gun and go into Syria to kill some ISIS people.
How about a Toyota pickup truck?
It's not. No. I know that this is the picture that the world get on our area, but in Israel things work differently, completely different.
We understand that, and that's what's necessary. And this is going to be an international issue. So we will. Hey, anything happens, anything breaks, give us a call. We'll get you on. We want you to meet a young lady who's the sister of one of the Druze officers, actually, that we met. And she's coming on the show for the first time today. We don't have her right now, do we?
No, she'll be ready when as soon as Ari's done, I'll get her on.
Okay, we can't get them on together?
If Ari wants to hold tight, if you want to take the show over for a couple minutes, Tom, if you just want to talk a few minutes, and I'll silence this.
We want you to meet, and here's how it came about. In our last mission out there, we went around the country, and we met many people. One of the people we met was a group of Druze soldiers in a particular part of the country. And through that, we found our way to this young lady. She's related to some folks who are in the IDF who are Druze. And she is in college studying in college, speaks perfect English, and has a very mature individual, and has obviously a good take on the Druze community, her community. And we discussed on a call that we didn't broadcast some of the struggles of the Druze community. Just within their own community, they're a very tight community, intermarrying Druze, all of that. And then the further integration that's taking place now with the Druze soldiers being integrated into the IDF. But we haven't spoken to her about this new situation, so let me bring her on right now.
1 second.
Her name is Angram, A-N-G-H-A-M, pronounced Angram, and we wanted to introduce her to Ari Agozi. They're both Israelis.
1 second.
Angram, are you there?
Hello.
Hello. Let me see if I could see you, and we can get you on the air at 41 minutes after the hour. Tom Trento, WSBR Radio in Boca Raton, 740. Oh, look at that. We've got both of them in a window, and the cuter one is not Agozi, okay? How about
Agozi, don't touch her.
היי, שלום, מה שלומך?
בסדר, מה איתך?
בסדר גמור, תודה.
Angram, Ari is a person involved of the reserve IDF, did his 50 years or whatever, I think 20. How many years did you do, Ari? 25?
I served three years in the basic army, and then for 25 years in the reserve.
In the reserves, and now very involved in national security issues with Israel. And Angram has family members, Druze, who are some of these loyal soldiers we just spoke about. Angram, we wanted to discuss, and we have been discussing with Ari, this very serious situation of Druze in Syria now possibly being threatened. Are you up to speed on that?
Yeah, of course.
Tell us a little bit. First of all, introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners. They haven't met you yet. Who are you? What do you do? And then we'll talk about this situation.
So first of all, my name is Zamzam. I am 20 years old. I study English at Haifa University. And I have 4 sisters. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. And that's it.
And what? I didn't hear the last thing you said.
I said that I have 3 sisters and 1 brother.
Oh, okay.
That's in the army, yeah.
You and I have spoken off the air about the situation of the Druze in Israel and the loyalty, all of that. But what's going on in Syria with the Druze community right now that you're aware of?
I'm aware that they are in danger, in real danger, that they're fighting against terrorists. And they are in a small, really small village, in a small place. Their number is small as well, so they're outnumbered and they are under a great threat. And we are here praying and hoping that they're going to be okay.
What can be done? What do you think can be done to help them? Because certainly Israel, and it wouldn't be wise for Israel to get involved in this crazy war, but what can be done to help them?
Well, we collected 10 million to help them, and we are out in the streets doing demonstrations, trying to raise awareness. And the Druze in Israel, they can't do much here. We can't do much here. We're just praying and trying to help with whatever we can.
What do you think about an international solution of other countries coming in to help?
Well, I'm not sure what can other countries do. I'm sure that they can interfere, like Israel or other countries, to stop this terror, not only against this Druze in Syria, but in general against everyone.
Yeah, It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Ari, what words of wisdom do you have for Angram?
As we spoke before, the Druze in Israel are very, very good citizens of Israel, and I understand that they're concerned about their brothers in Syria. I met some of them in a restaurant here, not far away from where I live, 2 weeks ago, and they have family relatives in Syria, and of course they are very, very concerned, and they hope that Israel does something, but they also understand that Israel cannot get into Syria or get involved in the civil war in Syria. So that's why I say that I hope that the problem will be dealt with by the international community, but I don't see this happening. And I hope that someone will really protect the Jews, because they are good people, they're good friends of Israel, they're good people working hard, they're serving in the army. I know some very high-ranking officer, Jewish officer. They are superb soldiers, and it's really, every time I meet them, it's an experience. They are so bright, so straightforward, and as we say, kol hakavod.
Yeah, the picture we just put up was a time when we met some of the Druze IDF soldiers right there. We're with some of them at a particular place. That's me on the left, not in uniform, and yeah, amazing people. Very, very difficult situation. Ari, we'll stay in touch with you. Angram, you stay on for a little bit. And anything pops on any of the hotspots in Israel, Ari, give us a call. We'll put a special show together. And
just one thing that you probably know, you know that your president invited our prime minister for a meeting in Washington. You know that.
Was not aware of that. When did that happen?
That happened yesterday. He got an official invitation to come to Washington, and that's a very dramatic development in the big fight between the White House and Jerusalem.
Well, let me guess what he's going to tell your prime minister. He's going to say, the decision on the 30th is our decision. Stay out of it. Don't do anything stupid. That's what he's going to tell your prime minister.
Is he going to go so far?
Okay,
as
guys.
To,
Thank you very much.
Is he going to go so far as
Bye.
to say,
Bye.
if you do anything offensive towards Iran, you're going to have a problem? You know, like the rumors of threatening to shoot Israeli airplanes out of the sky.
Well, you know, he's not going to shoot Israeli airplanes out of the sky, but he will use economic forces and diplomatic and political strength. Just not resupply. You know, just not resupply. A few minutes. We'll be done in a few minutes. Angram, how are you today? Good to see you again. How's life been?
It's great.
We had a time to talk with Ari before you came on, and it's a very sad situation with the Druze in Syria. Now, before the war, was it easy for you to just go over the border, go into Syria and visit relatives or friends in Syria?
No way. It was very hard.
Oh, it was even hard before the war.
Yeah, of course.
Because why? Why was that so? I mean, you're a Druze.
Religious people tried to go visit their relatives there, and they were ages in the court. I don't know what can we do about that. We cannot visit our relatives there, and
Now,
we cannot help them much.
Does the Syrian government, you know, Bashar al-Assad, does he view the Druze in Israel as Druze or as Israelis?
As Druze.
All right, but and he still wouldn't allow the Druze to come over into Syria to visit their own relatives.
Yeah.
Now, could the Syrian Druze go into Israel and spend holiday with you?
No. they can't.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Are you in touch with folks over there right now regarding the increase in the danger of the situation?
Yeah.
How many Druze are we talking about? What is the size of the population that's endangered?
I don't know about numbers. I don't know their number there, but they're in small villages. Small
So,
villages, that's what I can say.
so there's many people in an area in small villages.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even harder. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I have a question for you. For our first-time listeners and who do not know what a Druze is, is it an offshoot of Christianity, offshoot of Islam, or what exactly is the Druze religion?
Well, in history, we know that Druze were part of the Muslims, and the group parted from them, and then we started a secret religion.
So a secret religion, and they grew up over time. And do you have any affiliation to Islam whatsoever, or just happened to be that you guys were at one point kind of with Islam and then broke off? How is it actually? I mean, is there any relationship with Islam whatsoever?
No, we don't have any relation. We are considered another religion, totally.
Okay.
So it would be wrong to say a Druze person in an Islamic country is a Muslim.
Yeah, it's totally wrong. It's another religion, totally.
And historically, the Druze were overrun by Islamic Jihad, and they started their own little. They didn't want to buy into Islam. They started their own little secret religion, and it's very secret community right now. I mean, you can.
Yeah.
That's public information. It's a very secret community in that sense. Very tight community. All right, we're learning stuff all day long. There's a village up in the Golan. It looked like.
Right.
Anything you'd
No, that's
like
in
to?
Syria, actually.
What's that?
That's a Syrian Druze.
That was a
village.
Syrian village?
Yes.
I showed again. This is what we're talking about, small villages. We're not talking about tents. You know, we're talking about constructed buildings, but just a small area, not a
When
very
we
large
were
area.
in Israel a few months ago, the Druze villages that we drove through were absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful, scenic villages, beautiful homes with the Jerusalem stone. I mean, very well kept, beautiful places, and the people. We didn't see a lot of them, but the few we met were fantastic.
We're fantastic. Yeah.
Where did you go? Where did you visit?
We went to I think there were 4 villages in the Golan that we drove through. So the 4 of the, I forget their names, but we drove through them, as part of our mission, looking around and everything. It was very interesting, very good. And on our previous trips, we have stopped and gone into some of the Druze restaurants and had fabulous Druze
That's what everyone
lunches.
says.
Yes.
We want more, Mr. Tom. You know that.
Yes, on our next trip, we're coming up in March. We will meet you and your folks and friends and whomever at one of the Druze restaurants, and we'll have a grand old time.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, but we'll stay in touch with you, particularly if this gets more serious, and we hope and pray it doesn't. But it looks like it would have to be an international community, international response of some sort because of the geopolitical, just explosive conditions that could occur. Angram, thank you very, very much. You take care now. Have a wonderful day. We know it's much later in the day for you. It's 54 minutes after the hour for us. Tom Trento, WSBR Radio. Just finished with Aria Gozi giving us not a great report from Israel on the problems on the northeastern borders with Syria. And you know the Islamic State wants to draw Israel into the war. And Israel's trying not to do that. You can listen to us also on Red State Talk Radio, redstatetalkradio.com. Go there. We're on midnight. So if you're catching a little bit of it now, you want to tell your friends who are night owls or work the night shift and have access to radios or their iPhones, redstatetalkradio.com.
Also, check us out on Tea Party Community if you want to watch it.
TeaPartyCommunity.com, TeaPartyCommunity.com, theunitedwest.org, all kinds of different things.
Hey, we got Melissa Harris Perry if you want to.
Yes, we want to see this. Melissa Harry Perry, Melissa Perry.
Harris Perry, Melissa Harris Perry.
Yeah, she is a MSNBC talk show host. She's a professor, of Afro-Eurocentric institutional identification politics, or one of those lefty goofball names. But what do we want to draw attention to, Damon, on this very unique piece of video footage?
Well, Melissa Harris Perry's got a weekend show on MSNBC, and she is as far to the left as anyone has ever been on the airwaves in this country. And she is being Rachel Dolezal is far to the left. The left is trying to cover for her. You know, it's completely ridiculous.
Now, Rachel Dolezal is the white lady who said she was black, lied on different forms, got a job with the NAACP in Seattle being the head of the black organization, and then her parents finally had enough of it and said, she's like German, everybody, you know. She's German and Czech. She has nothing to do with black. She paints her face.
Oh, I'm part of Czech. She's embarrassing me.
And she wears a wig. So now the left has to come to her defense.
And here's her defense.
Here's the defense. Check this out.
We don't know. But is it possible that she might actually be black? And the best way that I know how to describe this, and I want to be very careful here, because I don't want to say that it is equivalent to the transgender experience, but there is a useful language in trans and cis, which is just to say some of us are born cisgendered, some of us are born transgender.
What? What? Hold on. What was that? Some of us are born what? Cisgender, trans? What the
Some
heck?
are born transgendered. You're like transitioning out of your gender. Some of us are born cis, C-I-S, cisgendered.
All right, let's play this again to just make sure. Maybe I didn't hear this right here. Hold on a second.
Welcome to the postmodern hour.
But is it possible that she might actually be black? And the best way that I know how to describe this, and I want to be very careful here, because I don't want to say that it is equivalent to the transgender experience, but there is a useful language in trans and cis, which is just to say some of us are born cisgendered, some of us are born transgendered, but I wonder, can it be that one would be cis black and trans black? That there's actually a different category of blackness that is about the achievement of blackness despite one's parentage. Is that possible?
No!
Why not? I mean,
why not?
I think that one thing that she said that I found so fascinating was she said her identity is multi-layered and that her identity is very complicated and that she didn't expect for people to understand it easily. And I think what she's alluding to is this sort of perhaps, and again, we don't know that much about the story. You know, we need to hear more from her and more of her personal story. But there certainly is a chance that she identifies as a black woman, and that there could be authenticity to that.
There's authenticity to
and I want to be very careful here, because I don't want to say that it is equivalent.
There's authenticity to a lie. You got to pull up real quickly, Damon, because I'm sure she modeled herself after a character called Sideshow Bob on The Simpsons. Pull Sideshow Bob up for our viewing audience. And Rachel Dolezal has modeled herself after Sideshow Bob. You can show Sideshow Bob's picture. But what you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, is the epitome of a postmodern discussion. Modern was that time period where A does not equal non-A. There was a law of non-contradiction. Postmodern means we've traveled. There's Sideshow Bob, and here is Rachel Dolezal, right? That's me. Sideshow Bob, Rachel Dolezal.
Rachel Dolezal. Here we go. Here we go.
Here we go.
No, you got to pull up the other picture.
Well, I got to save the other.
So in any event, what you just heard, that conversation, we're going to play this often because really in a short 2 minutes, they violated every rule of common sense, every rule of Aristotelian logic, and every rule of how to say stupid things. I mean, these are the rules that you have to follow to say stupid things. Is it possible that under the layers of her cisgendered concept, she who is white can actually be black? Yes, of course it is. This is the degree to which we've traveled. And look, we got to fight bad guys in the Middle East and other places in the world, but we got to fight this sort of irrational thinking that fuels the public policy that's changed America from a great republic to a second-rate, idiotic country led by elitists that are playing games with English language. We'll see you tomorrow. Extortion 17 with Don Brown and Billy Vaughn. Don't miss that.
Yep, here we go.
There they are, Sideshow and Rachel. Sideshow Rachel. Sideshow Rachel. Take it easy, everybody. See you tomorrow.